Okay, to blame you.
How many times have you heard people, even though we won it, complain about that 6-4 game? What a boring game. Oh, yeah.
Boring. I thought I was going to have a heart attack this time.
Carl Davis.
Carl
Yes.
Davis.
Six, 7, 8, 9, click it.
I know it's me. I don't know what it is. Something in my shoulder is not right.
13. 2 more. 14. We can do it. 15. All right. Good job. All right, a little bit of a
If
very.
you're doing any exercise, that's better than no exercise, and your goal should be to get about 30 minutes of exercise most days of the week.
The Big Sleep, 1946, Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. But The Big Sleep remade, 1978, Robert Mitchum and Sarah Miles. That was the one I remember. Farewell, My Lovely, 1975, almost the same time, Robert Mitchum and Charlotte Rampling. I do remember that. By the way, I'm about a third of the way through your novel. Farewell, My Lovely, made under the title Murder, My Sweet, 1944, Dick Powell and Claire Trevor. I don't remember Claire Trevor being that young. Today we look at Spanish Blood, 1935, earlier. I'm not sure how they arrange these things, but the last story is 1939, and now we're back to 1935, very early story.
I mean, I read it twice, and
Yeah,
I was ready to go back and read it. I'm not gonna read it the first time.
I had that same feeling. This was unduly complicated.
Yeah.
But remember, he had trouble with plots. He hated plotting, and apparently here he overplotted. That was be what I would say.
Okay, okay.
And some of you may feel he badly.
Still, was the commissioner good or bad? You know,
There
he
seems to
just
be
kind
an
of,
involvement in
it's
it.
like he couldn't make up his mind.
I think it was involved.
Oh, yeah, I think so too,
He
but,
got political
but he didn't
skullduggery.
really, and then he let him get away with it at the end, so it,
But I like that, because people are talking.
And this is Helen Chatama, who teaches yoga. And what is yoga?
What is yoga? Goodness me. Yoga, the word yoga means union, uniting of the body and the mind. And then when that begins to take effect, then we add uniting that with your spirit, your internal energy and your perspective on life. And so yoga does those things, meaning that we work together, and that's part of the union as well. Breathe. Shoulders down, chest up, close your eyes and balance, just like that. And continue breathing. Then shift your weight to the left foot. And don't shift your hip out of balance. Keep your spine straight. Shift the weight so that you can lift the right foot off the floor a little bit and back down. Breathe again and pick the foot up and put it on your ankle or on the calf or wherever you can. Or I didn't do anything with your arms. Bring your arms up. Take a breath. Good for you, Gay. And pick up the foot. And if you want to leave the toe on the floor, and then just take the toe off to test yourself.
But this particular atlas, there are 3 full pages having to do with Texas and Texas cities. And at the top right, there's an inset map just showing different sections of the state of Texas. And the section that I grew up in is this one, and it's called the Panhandle of Texas. And to give you a sense of the size, this Panhandle area is roughly 3/4 the area of the state of Iowa was. My biological mother died in October 1943, so 9 months later. After her death, my aunt, who had taken care of me during the first year, after her death, my aunt tried to persuade my father to let her adopt me, since he was still in the Army. though by that time he was stationed at the Amarillo Air Force Base, never having been sent to the Pacific. He did not agree with her, and they apparently had a major argument about me and my future. My father took me from her home and drove me to the family farm outside Childress, Texas. There, in that crisis situation, he turned me over to his older sister, my auntie, and her family, including a son who was a year older than I was. I lived with them on the farm for 6 to 8 months. They would become, over the years, without doubt, my favorite relatives. And my life would later be enriched with several wonderful visits to visit them and play on the Johnson farm. By the way, parenthetic, as best as I remember the story, apparently my dad more or less kind of drove up to the farm with me and said, will you, can you? Not long after being transferred to Amarillo, my father, by then a captain in the Army, met Erlene Wilson, who at that time was a secretary in the First Baptist Church in Amarillo, whose first husband had died from a very unusual baseball accident. She and my father met on a blind date, a date arranged by Al and Evangeline Meyer. He was a Lutheran chaplain at the Air Force Base. She was a musician friend of Erlene Wilson, and their friendship and joint love of music would last until my mother's death. It was dark when we first entered the house. We were tired after a long day on the road. Most of our furniture had not yet been delivered. And Mother was voicing concern that the next morning she might discover that the previous family had left us a dirty house. We went to the kitchen, turned on the light, opened the refrigerator door, and to our utter surprise and joy, found the refrigerator completely filled, with all kinds of food that had been purchased and made by the members of our new church. What a great way to be introduced to Roscoe, which would become my favorite hometown. Why? For the first time in my life, I had friends in the neighborhood. Not just one, but several. All boys roughly the same age as mine.
And about how long have you been showing your pictures?
Wednesday nights, 7 o'clock, for 3 years.
3 years.
Yes.
What made you develop your passion for your travels and the pictures?
Well, I started out as a kid freehand drawing. I spent too much time on detail. By the time I finished the picture, the cat had run away, the flower had died, the tree became wilted, something. So I discovered Kodak, and in a second I could do the work of 2 months. So I went to slides. This, I think, will be my this year's Christmas card. I call this Zeus because of the light, and Pegasus the flying horse. It is a capriole. He's not moving. He starts dancing 1 foot, 2 feet, 3 feet, and then jumps straight up. And he just can't. Anyway, there he is. But I do think this will be my 2012 Christmas card. This is how you soak up local color in Spain. The bull knocked the thing down, chased those guys, the bullfighters around. Little guy, 18 years old, had to put him back in, put the boards in, and then kill him. Carthusian monastery. When the communists headed for Seville, they burned the barns, killed the cattle. These monks hid 2 couples of Andalusian horses in their wine cellar, and all the rest were wiped out. Franco got to Seville, this is kind of close to Seville, and saved the monks and the 4 horses. Well, we still have Andalusian dancing horses now. And the Vienna Spanish riding school, look at the horse looking at me. I mean, just like the horse wanted me to take his picture.
Group of the month, the senior standing room only. And they're going to be presenting something new in September, but just what does your group do?
We're a reading theater, and we present performances 4 or 5 times during the year. Sometimes they're theme-based, sometimes they are based on skits or plays, but we just get up and entertain. We're an entertainment group. To young and old alike. An athlete, a businessman, a neighbor, a friend, a historian. But foremost, he was a gentleman. A gentle man who loved to tell stories about Iowa City. Senior Standing Room Only is proud to conclude this year's celebration of Irving Weber Month by our presentation of Irving Weber's Iowa City by Maggie Conroy. Our readers this afternoon are Shirley Myers, Mike Lensing, Chuck Felling, Bob Beal, Diana Durham, and Jerry Rowe.
Irving Weber rang this bell for years. It's a tradition over in Japan to start swimming meets with ringing a bell. When Irving saw that, he thought it was much better than a starting gun. So he introduced the tradition right here over at the field house. He watched many excited fans and swimmers get ready when they heard the bell. Irving Weber lived here in Iowa City, Johnson County, Iowa, in the heartland of America, 120 miles east of Des Moines, 45 miles west of the Mississippi. Irving was born in this city on December 19, 1900. Some of you might not be familiar with Iowa, and there may have been a time when you were confused and called it Ohio or Idaho. But we Iowans understand and forgive you. When you get a chance, not now, but after the program, look up at the old Capitol building over there and study the state flag. There are a few Iowans who could refresh their memories just for fun. What are the colors? And what's in the center? Say, can you tell me what the state bird is? The goldfinch, right. And the state motto? Anyone? Well, it's our liberties we prize and our rights we will maintain. When you get a moment, you might want to memorize the state song, the Song of Iowa, which is sung to the melody of O Tannenbaum. Irving was not going to make you suffer through his singing. He knew that he was not musical. He found that out early on in Van Doren's juvenile marching band, for which he'd pay 50 cents a week, but he never could keep in step. He drove Van Doren wild One day, in front of everyone, Van Doren said, "There's one guy in this band who won't ever make a musician, and that's Weber." Irving always thanked Van Doren because that way he didn't waste any time with music. Although he did enjoy singing "My Bonnie Lies Over the Ocean."
Irving always reminded people that very interesting people came from this state. President Herbert Hoover, Buffalo Bill, and Grant Wood. Irving was proud that he had delivered milk to Grant Wood at Grant Wood's home on Court Street, number 1142.
Hello from the Johnson County, Iowa City Senior Center. I'm Nancy Lynch, and with me are Paulina Pate and Jim Conger from the Senior Center Group of the Month, which is Spanish with Paulina. Buenos dias. Perhaps you can give me an interview about the group and tell us what you do, what this group does.
Well, actually, Pauline started the group several years ago, bless her heart. And we were deciding to learn Spanish after we retired. So we hadn't had any before. And this was a great opportunity to get in touch with people who were trying to learn with us. And so we were happy that she started the group. And it was a lot of fun and has been going on now for, what, 5 or 6 years?
I think so.
Which probably means we'll never finish learning it. I don't know.
I think you can go on forever, is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Probably
I
good.
think so. With help like he is, and all those men in the class are wonderful.
So,
You know.
can you tell me, what is the goal of the class? Is it mostly to learn to speak or to learn to read and write?
Well, I think everybody has their own personal goal, and it's true that some people are really not so concerned about speaking. They just want to be able to read, and other people are very interested in speaking, and reading is not their primary interest. So everybody has to sort of toe to the middle a little bit, and we try to do a little of everything.
So how do you structure the class? Is it a lecture sort of, or is it more conversation, or?
How would you characterize it? I guess?
Well, it's a 2-hour class, you know, that helps.
2 hours.
And the first class, I think it's grammar, isn't it?
The first 30 minutes or so is a review of grammar, and that's because we need grammar for speaking, and we need grammar for understanding reading. So it's sort of the glue between the two parts. And that gets us warmed up, and then after that we translate a while.
It goes on. These stories that we have now are wonderful.
Yeah,
So
they
you
really
read
are.
stories as well as conversation? And
Yeah, for the first time, I think this year, we have moved from intermediate texts for students to real Spanish short stories. And that's been quite a jump for some of us too.
now, is this an intermediate class? Is it good for one to have some Spanish in their background before?
You have to.
Before they come to the class?
You have to, yeah. The trouble with the word intermediate is that it's a huge middle ground, ranging from 0, beginning, up to fluent at the top, and nobody knows exactly what intermediate is. So everybody comes to us with a certain amount of background and also a certain amount of need. It's very hard to balance that in some cases, but we do find the middle ground if people stick with it.
Right.
And do most people stick with it for a while?
They do. I think 2 years, maybe, in some cases. Longer. Some people come and go, but the group itself has been going on now for quite a while.
It is, I know, at least 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
More?
Definitely.
It's all because of Pauline's personality.
Well, I remember when I first started coming to the senior center that I think you had just moved here and you Right. Were starting his class.
And
This is Mary Gustroff. I'm a member of the membership group or committee. And this is Heine Lowenberg, who is one of the people who keep reading aloud going. Does that sound better?
Yeah. Well, I call myself the leader, not the teacher, because I'm really not teaching, but the leader of the group, and I did originate the group.
How long has it been going on here at the Senior Center?
Since 2005. It started with an entry in the program when no one signed up for it, and then the next time people started signing up.
I walk among the rows of bowed heads. The children are sleeping through 4th grade so as to be ready for what is ahead. The monumental boredom of junior high and the rush forward tearing their wings loose and turning their eyes forever inward. These are the children of Flint. Their fathers work at the spark plug factory or truck bottled water in 5-gallon sea blue jugs to the windows of the suburbs.
Widows is widows.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
These are
the fathers are the water delivery people, right? To the widows.
Yes,
So, yeah,
I just tapped it. My
Why don't you begin
allergies.
to, these are the children of Flint,
Yes.
yeah.
These are the children of Flint. Their fathers work at the spark plug factory or truck bottled water in 5-gallon sea blue jugs to the widows of the suburbs. You can see already how their backs have thickened, how their small hands, soiled by pig iron, leap and stutter even in dreams. I would like to sit down among them and read slowly from the book of Job until the windows pale and the teacher rises out of a milky sea of industrial scum, her gowns streaming with light, her foolish words transformed into song. I would like to arm each one with a quiver of arrows so they might rush like wind there where no battle rages, shouting among the trumpets, ha, ha! How dear the gift of laughter in the face of the 8-hour day, the cold winter mornings without coffee and oranges, the long lines of mothers in old coats waiting silently where the gates have closed. 10 years ago, I went among these same children, just born, in the bright ward of the Sacred Heart, and leaned down to hear their breaths delivered that day, burning with joy. There was such wonder in their sleep, such purpose in their eyes closed against autumn, in their damp heads blurred with the hair of ponds. And not one turned against me or the light. Not one said, I am sick, I am tired, I will go home. Not one complained or drifted alone, unloved, on the hardest day of their lives. 11 years from now, they will become the men and women of Flint or Paradise, the majors of a minor town. And I will be gone into smoke or memory, so I bow to them here and whisper all I know, all I will never know.
Wow, that packs a punch.
Snow. Today the snow is drifting on Belle Isle, and the ducks are searching for some opening to the filthy waters of their river. On Grand River Avenue, which is not in Venice but in Detroit, Michigan, the traffic has slowed to a standstill, and yet a sober man has hit a parked car and swears to the police he was not guilty. The bright squads of children on their way to school howl at the foolishness of the world they will try not to inherit. Seen from inside a window, even a filthy one like those at Automotive Supply Company, the snow which has been falling for hours is more beautiful than even the spring grass which once unfurled here, before the invention of steel and fire. For spring grass is what the earth sang in answer to the new sun, to melting snow and the dark rain of spring nights. But snow is nothing. It has no melody or form. It is as though the tears of all the lost souls rose to heaven and were finally heard and blessed with substance and the power of flight, and given their choice, chose then to return to earth, to lay their great pale cheek against the burning cheek of earth and say, "There, child."
You did a very nice job with the amount of pause at lines that didn't really stop. As an expert on